Hello everyone, my name is Chris Schaefer. I'm the president of the Heritage Lake Property Owners Association Board of Directors. This video is the 6th in a series of 8 to help us define the issues before us with the current covenant ballot out for community vote. We're 3/4 of the way there. Hopefully you've already made it through the first 5 videos. This video will explain one of the issues that several people had previously voiced concerns about during the ballot run last year. There was a fear that the proposed changes would somehow give the Board of Directors powers that they didn't already have, or give them the ability to manipulate the voting process to push issues through. This will help answer that concern. The short answer to what power the Board of Directors has now and how it will change with this ballot is this: there will be no difference. Right now, only the board votes on rule changes and bylaw changes. The board has no authority to approve covenant changes. Only voting members of the community have the power to approve covenant changes. If this ballot passes, in the future, it will be the community that approves any future changes to the covenants. The board does not now, and will not in the future, have the power to change the covenants. Additionally, the board does not have the power or authority to manage the voting process. That is done by an independent group. We have an election committee that helps with that. The only involvement that the board has with respect to covenant changes is to evaluate requests to make the changes, work with the lawyer to define and document the new revised covenant, ballot, and associated documents to be included as information to all eligible voting members of the community, and to support the education, petition ballot campaigns to encourage members to vote. Now for the detail behind the answer. If you watched What's the Difference Between Rule, Bylaw, and Covenant Changes, you learn that depending upon what kinds of changes are being requested, the method by which voting happens differs. Changes to rules, like lake rules, A&E rules, campground rules, all those things are defined as rules. They require a member or committee to propose that change to the board, which then votes on it or requests additional clarification or definition. A consideration of that ruling is whether the request is in violation of any bylaws, covenants, or Indiana state or local laws. Changes to the bylaws proposed by the Board of Directors or sometimes our attorney. The board defines that request during open board or operations meetings, votes on it, typically twice at open meetings, then takes it to the lawyer for approval. Changes to covenants can only be made through community vote or approval. The board has no influence to overrule or bypass community vote. Additionally, there are legal restrictions and rules governing how that voting process is managed, with respect to anonymity, ballot distribution or mailers, and how the votes are counted. The board can't modify those processes. As a side note, a concern from the last ballot was that the board would have more freedom to change the assessment fees as a result of this ballot. Again, the board has no authority or ability to do that without a vote from the community. As assessments are documented in the covenants, they cannot be modified by the board. Any proposed change to the covenants now and in the future can only happen if the community votes in favor of making those changes. The current covenant change will support a voting process whereby 2/3 of community votes cast on any issue will be sufficient to make a change, whereas today it requires 2/3 of all lot owners to vote for a change. This will give the voting members of the community more power, not the board. An additional element to consider is only members in good standing will be eligible to vote in the future, whereas today all lot owners, regardless of whether they're delinquent in their assessments or dues, or if they've had their membership suspended, are eligible to vote as long as they still own lots. It does not make sense to allow that, so the members in good standing wording was added. Another concern, which also had previously been voiced, was that the board, should this petition pass, could selectively send petitions to certain members of the community to ensure a change would pass. Article 3, Section 2 of the Covenant states, "Each member shall be entitled to 1 vote for each lot that he owns, or in which he owns in fee, or in which he has an interest as a land contract purchaser." This means first that the board cannot legally restrict who the ballot goes to. It must go to every member owning a lot or lots within the community. The only change to that going forward is that only members in good standing will receive ballots. Ballots are sent to every eligible member. That will not change. The only difference is that only ballots that are returned will be counted to determine the outcome. And even that has a qualification that at least 750 ballots must be returned, which ensures that a minimum of 25% of all lots must vote. This again gives the voting members of the community the power, not the board, and not those who do not vote. In fact, during last year's ballot campaign, we constantly requested those who hadn't received a ballot or cast a vote to do so. We remailed the ballot to those who hadn't yet cast theirs, 3 times in fact. I reached out numerous times on Facebook, and we talked about it in nearly all board meetings last year. This board wants the community to vote to help us better represent you. You may think, oh, that's great, but what happens when members of today's board move on? Good question. But consider that all board meetings are open to all members, recorded on YouTube, and membership is encouraged to attend. We live in this community with you. We share the lake and are at community events with you. I can tell you from personal experience that no one wants to sit at those tables in front of you or walk amongst you and have to answer questions to things that we've decided or done that you don't agree with. My and every other board member's time on the board is limited. We will not sit on the board forever. There is constant board turnover by design. The decision we make as board members will impact us just like they will you. I don't want to walk away from my time on the board and 5 years down the road regret a decision that we've made because it somehow weakens our community. I want to live here for a very long time and in no way want to jeopardize my little slice of heaven on earth. I love this community and I want it to thrive for years and years to come. The changes we may make in the future will still receive the careful legal scrutiny from our council that they do today. We must comply with all laws that govern how covenants are changed, and bylaw changes must be written and approved by our lawyer before ever going to the community for a vote. At some point, you have to get involved and communicate with us and take control of what happens in this community. The power really is with you. Everyone in the community will continue to have that power in the future, but only those who vote can really make the change that the community wants. Both the bylaws and covenants are available at your request from the office or the HLPOA website. If you have any questions about this or the other videos or general questions around the ballot initiative, please reach out to me or any board member. We are happy to answer your questions or address your concerns. We want what's best for this community, and we truly believe this is. This was the 6th in a series of 8 videos created to help explain the Covenant Campaign.